Hi, I'm Albert Pasaoa, and this is the 635 podcast. The 635 podcast is about local politics, economics, and social and cultural issues in the Alvin Community College area. The views expressed on the show are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of Alvin Community College. All right, we have some articles for you that we're gonna go over today. Me and Ron. And Ron, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How's it going? It's good to be back.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Plenty of stuff has happened. So let's. So you dug up some interesting stories here.
Yep.
Let's go to the first story here. Let's see what that is. So walk me through this. Let me see if I close, and I guess I'm gonna have to scroll with you. So what's going on in the story here? Let me just look at the headline. Mayor Adams rips AOC for rush to conclude that Jordan Neely was murdered. Now, you got to give some backstory here because there's a lot that somebody might not know about this.
Well, I'm still learning about it myself, but apparently it looks like this guy, he was a homeless person, black dude. Let's get the context out there. Black homeless dude. He had mental issues, apparently. He ended up getting choked out on the subway train. This is in New York City. New York City's a lot of things going on out there. Some people say it's out of control, but it was an ex-Marine that choked him out. But from what I understand, with the information that's out, he was acting erratic towards the subway passengers, the guy that got choked out, that died. So I don't know if it was a situation where the Marine, ex-Marine, was trying to like stop him from hurting other people or whatever the case. But the crux is Mayor Adams and AOC right now are going at it because AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said, hey, this guy was murdered. I mean, where's the due process of that? Mayor Adams, he's saying, hey, let's wait a second, let them do their jobs, let the investigation transpire before we say, hey, this person was murdered. So frankly, you got two liberals, two Democrats arguing about this situation, but there still needs to be an investigation.
Yeah. And so in the story, so give me some details. What do you know about what's known about this story in terms of what transpired, what happened?
And that's the thing. Even Mayor Adams in the story, when you read the article, he's saying we really don't know exactly what happened here, right? We need to let it play out. It says, acts when it's appropriate to subway passengers take matters in their own hands. Adams, the mayor, was like, hey, each situation is different. So allegedly, that's the thing, Albert. We don't know exactly what went down. We just know that this guy was the McNeely that ended up dying was acting erratic, whatever that means. Ex-Marine ended up choking him out on the subway or whatnot, and then he ended up dying, right? So the Marine was arrested right after, but he was let go with no charges or whatnot. So, and I just want to get the dynamics out there. AOC comes in there and say this guy was murdered. The guy is a homeless black guy. The Marine is a white guy. AOC argues and others are saying, hey, well, this guy, he's homeless and we're looking at his lower status, so he doesn't matter. That's the thought process. But I don't know what the issue is, but nobody knows what it is exactly, right? There needs to still to be an investigation. So that's the issue. Nobody knows, but AOC is jumping a gun along with others as well. Well, when I read this, a guy named Brad Lander or whatever, he's talking about, hey, New York City's not Gotham or whatever. Don't take stuff into your own hands. But the city's out of control, people would ask,
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. People always want to jump the gun. People always want to get a quick take in terms of, they gotta tweet out fast. They gotta have an opinion on everything before anything comes out. And even according to the story,
one of the witnesses say that Neely, the guy that got choked out, he was having a mental episode. And when another strap hanger identified as 24-year-old Marine from Queens took him down from behind and placed him in a chokehold for about 15 minutes. So whatever that mental episode means, that's what's transpiring in that situation.
Yeah. Was there anyone else who was trying to restrain this guy?
I'm not exactly sure. It just talked about that ex-Marine guy. You look at the pictures on here and it just looks like that it was like really just one guy just holding them down. But
there's video.
Oh, there is a video.
Oh wow. Well, I'm not gonna play it.
There is a video. So
what have you watched the video?
I have not watched the video.
Okay.
I have not. But you see the picture there right here. Mayor Adams says there are too many unknowns to conclude that Jordan Neely was murdered. I mean, to me, that's outrageous personally to say that somebody was murdered. Where is the due process?
Yeah.
Right? You're just off top saying the guy was murdered and not even providing any context without, you're the judge and the juror right off top.
I think somebody could sue if you say he murdered.
Defamation?
And then he turns up being exonerated. He would have that.
Well, if you're not charged or whatever, they did say that the grand, if they wanted to, they can look at it again, the police, and give it to the grand jury to see if they want to charge this guy. But again, I don't even know the story. I just was making the rounds on social media today, and this is like the top thing. But I do want to be fair. That's social media, man. They're going to put in the algorithm, the stuff at the top to, try to make people feel outrageous about certain things. So I don't know how interested people were really in it. Somebody died. It's sad, but
yeah. Well, what is going on in social media? I haven't kept track of that part of Twitter.
Albert, come on, man.
I on my Twitter, I've mainly followed technology, so
Yeah.
I'm following AI and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I haven't checked today, so maybe this is hot. So what are people's takes?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's fresh off the heater. This is on the top of Twitter in terms of trending. Another thing on top of the trender that's trending in Twitter is in San Francisco at a public meeting, a trans activist died, and this lady went on there and she like screamed at the top. It was kind of comical, unfortunately. But as far as like what people are saying about this, is kind of you're in either two camps, AOC or you were Mayor Adams. Whatnot. AOC saying this is this guy got murdered. Mayor Adams is saying, wait a minute, he went on TV or whatever. Right? This happened last night or yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. He went on TV saying, hey, she needs to slow a roll or whatever. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is saying, oh, well, that's very rich coming from you, Mayor. Obviously, this is in the media because you took away those programs that could help the mentally ill or whatnot. But you're saying that, we need to hold back in terms of our conclusions about this situation. So you have two camps right now. But you got to also understand that when you talking about, and again, I'm not trying to knock these people, right? I don't hate anybody, but this is politics. It's WWE performative or whatever. She has a base that she has to perform for, and that's what she's doing right now. I gotta say, I'm surprised at Mayor Adams in terms of his restraint with this situation, but I would argue that people are looking at this city, the New York City, is just getting out of control. And I used to live in New York, by the way.
Oh, when did you live in New York?
I lived in New York from 2015 to about 2016, middle of 2016. I lived in upstate New York, Rochester, Buffalo area, in a small town called Batavia. But I would travel to Rochester a lot, Buffalo. I would go to New York City every now and then. But this is before COVID. This is before it really just kind of got out of control in a sense. But yeah, I lived in New York. Taxes are high, it's ridiculous, very costly. But I would definitely not want to go there. They just banned gas stoves.
I heard about that. Is that serious? Like the no gas stoves?
No, they so if you obviously if you have one now you should be good, but if you try to go buy another one, apparently you're not going to be able to buy one eventually. So it's going to be, that planned obsolescence type of aspect. You try to get your gas stove fixed, you're not going to be able to get it fixed perhaps.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I actually did hear about this story actually in the context of jiu-jitsu, because he's doing a rear naked choke. He probably was trained. Let's look at this picture. He's got his arm under the chin, and he's locking it up with his right arm. And I mean, first of all, people aren't supposed to die from that. I mean, that's the thing. People in jiu-jitsu, they will quote unquote go to sleep, and then usually release it, and then they just wake back up. So I think what's going to be important is how long did he have this hold on for?
I think it was 15 minutes.
15 minutes. He was squeezing for 15 minutes, or I mean, I would definitely. I mean, that's huge, because if it's true he held him and squeezed for 15 minutes, I mean, you could put somebody out in a matter of seconds. So I mean, if he was squeezing, trying to choke somebody for 15 minutes, either that's completely incompetent, or he meant some harm. But we don't know, because I've heard that 15-minute number, and then I heard that 15 minutes was the time it took for the police to respond, not necessarily how long this guy was holding him in that specific position and squeezing.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at the article. That's what it said. Took him down and from behind and placed him in a chokehold for about 15 minutes. Could have been more. Could have been less. But I want to say this though, and look at the political aspect of this. It's a bad look, dude, to put a guy in a chokehold. I mean, you got to understand. I mean, New York City, man. Whether we agree or not, people have their right to have a perspective. It's a liberal city in terms of politicians or whatever. Why would you even put yourself in that situation to be able to, possibly be charged and have all this attention on you or whatever? I guess that's why you see somebody acting a fool. As long as they not messing with you, just let them do what they do on the subway. But you got those. He's an ex-Marine. Perhaps there's a hero complex there. Who knows? But I just know that he should have due process. But in the article, it said a witness claimed it was about 15 minutes in terms of the chokehold. So you say 15 minutes is outrageous for that position?
If he was, first of all, I probably wouldn't hold somebody in this position. It's not a great holding position. It's you put it there and you're either squeezing him or threatening to squeeze him. So I guess if it were 15 minutes, it would be he loosens up and sort of warns him. But you definitely don't want to squeeze for 15 minutes. I mean, that for sure could kill somebody. I accidentally put somebody to sleep, and I had him in that hold, for sure under 20 seconds. He was fighting it, and then he just fell asleep. And then I immediately knew he was out because you could tell because their body goes limp. And then I released. So that's another thing is that if this guy is experienced, he would have known if the guy goes out and to release. So
I mean, he's an ex-Marine, so I'm sure he knows. They had that combat experience.
Yes.
I would think.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, they do probably have combatives training, and so he probably learned some of that. I think probably we've got to wait for the more details to come out, and that may be what the police are waiting for.
Yeah.
I think that if he was choking him for 15 minutes, that's insane. That sounds totally guilty to me, but that just sounds so outrageous that I think more likely he maybe choked them and then he moved his arm and then just held him for maybe 15 minutes and then somebody misinterpreted because a lot of people have no idea what they're looking at.
Yeah, and plus eyewitness testimonies usually you can't rely on it a lot of times. But I'm sure there's had to be video cameras on the train or whatnot.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
I'm now, the mayor, is he a Democrat or a Republican?
Oh, he's a Democrat big time. Mayor Adams is beyond. He's a liberal big time. He's talking about wanting to ban or talking about meat and dairy, how it's bad for the environment, and that's something. Again, I just want to put this out there. I don't want to be on here trying to be partisan. These are just the things that they say. But yeah, he's beyond liberal for sure.
Okay, so that's kind of a warning bell too, because if somebody who is a Democrat is willing to sort of withhold and wait, because I would imagine there's a lot of pressure on him to go and make a stand and to say, this is not right. But for him to sort of pause and say, hey, let's go slow.
Correct.
I think that maybe he has some inside information that maybe, more comes out and, this guy has real defense and maybe other witnesses did in fact feel that the guy was a threat. And maybe he did not choke him for 15 minutes. So
no, and that's a great point because that's why I was like, hey, Mayor Adams is saying take a pause. So that kind of perked my ears. You may be right. I didn't think about that. Maybe he does have some inside information. But you were speaking of social media regarding this particular situation. What I did notice on social media, remember when I told you he's a Michael Jackson impersonator? So all you see on social media now for the sympathizers, again, he died. It's tragic. It's sad. Oh, they show him being a Michael Jackson, and they're like, "Look at him. He was just a guy. He was doing the moonwalk dressed up like Michael Jackson. That was years back or whatever, apparently. But he's on the subway harassing people allegedly. So,
I'm already imagining the memes of the people who wanted him to die. Like, what kind of dark memes are coming out about Michael Jackson? I don't know.
Man, it's coming for sure. But yeah, you see him. He's dressed up in his Michael Jackson jacket, doing like the moonwalk and spinning and everything. It's like, all right, dude. I mean, he had mental issues. Period. So, but let's put it in this perspective. Do you think the ex-Marine, did he have any mental health issues? PTSD? Who knows?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, he would, I guess, still be found guilty, but that could be, something that might mitigate his charge.
And again, I just want to make it clear, he has not been charged. So he was arrested and let go by the police.
That's huge for that to happen. I think they've got to know something. Maybe the witnesses, if the witnesses were sympathetic, then to the guy choking him, that means that the witnesses were scared, which means there was a perception of an actual threat.
Correct.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think it's terrible that this happened. I don't know. I really, as somebody who does jujitsu, I mean, I wouldn't even want to put somebody to sleep. But yeah, I would if I would have to. And the guy doesn't look that big, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, big guys, those are the guys who I would hold on a choke for extra long because I'm terrified.
Yeah,
yeah, and actually, and then other talks is, are they gonna put restriction? I mean, I already know that sometimes putting somebody in a stranglehold could be a felony or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see what if there are specific restrictions on what kind of holds you're allowed to put somebody in, even if you do think they're a threat.
Now it's interesting because in New York some years back with Eric Garner, the police officer choked out kind of in the same notion that this guy did to Eric Garner, the guy that said I can't breathe. It was a huge store. He was selling illegal cigarettes outside the store, and the cop, he ended up getting in trouble. I think he got convicted, but obviously he's in authority, the cop, so you got more expectations about you for doing things like this. But he kind of the same thing, put him in a chokehold like this guy did and the cop ended up getting charged. Eric Garner died, and it was a huge big deal. Some days later or weeks later, you saw like the NBA, LeBron James and them wearing shirts "I can't breathe" or whatnot. That's where that aspect come from. You can Google that, but kind of reminds me of that situation there with that cop strangling Eric Garner in that same manner.
Yeah,
but a little bit different circumstances, but pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see. Well, first of all, ideally, police would use less guns and more grappling of some type, like mostly non-lethal, holds. And it would be a shame if so many holds were sort of taken off the table. That
be careful because people would disagree with that. They would because that whole Eric Garner situation was a bad thing. The cop didn't use the gun. He choked him, and
yeah,
people are upset about that.
I mean that's the thing. I mean, I'm not familiar with that case. I mean, hopefully it was I guess it has to be the correct application.
Yeah.
So that's always the tricky thing. But the correct application that takes training, that takes time, and are the cities gonna be willing to spend money to make sure the police are trained in sort of unarmed, non-lethal combat? But I'm not sure if they'd be willing to do that. So
yeah, and money's scarce right now. I think that's what AOC was saying about Eric Garner, Mayor Adams taking away certain, whatever she's saying, programs for certain individuals that may have these mental health issues, perhaps even cop trainings and stuff like that. But the cops in New York, man, I can see them being hamstrung with so much stuff going on against cops, and I would be scared to be a cop now. I don't want to get convicted or whatever for using deadly force or doing even a chokehold, something like this or whatever. If I was a cop, even though that this Marine was not a cop, but I mean, the blue have it hard right now, of course. And that's inflammatory to say to some. But.
Oh yeah. The interesting thing from an economics perspective is, as being a police officer becomes sort of less socially acceptable, that there's a stigma attached to it, then that means fewer people want to be police, which means the supply of police officers is going to fall, which means basic supply and demand, that's actually going to push up the wages of police. And actually, last report I heard is that police officer pay is actually rising because they're having such a hard time attracting people. So I think it's actually kind of ironic that they say people have these bad feelings towards police, and then the effect of that is to drive up the pay of police. But that's what you have to do. To get people in, and so it ends up being an interesting trade-off there.
No, that is it. I like that economic portrayal. Perhaps they need to get paid more, if you will, particularly now with the circumstances they have to deal with. So police officer that is. But yeah.
All right, so hopefully we'll get more information on this story.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my eyes on this, man. I'm definitely gonna keep my eyes on this.
And let's check out. Here is another story. This one about TikTok. Congress wants to ban TikTok. They have no idea what that means to the rest of us. So give me the background about this story.
So first of all, this is from USA Today, and USA Today, they're no far right extremists or far left. I mean, they're pretty center legacy media. And this young woman, she's a contributor. She's basically saying how she essentially used TikTok or uses TikTok for her business and to, educate people and different things like that. But one of the things that kind of stuck out to me in this particular article, where it's talking about how she was talking about how TikTok worked. First of all, I don't have TikTok on my phone. I would never download TikTok on my phone. I'm not against anybody that has TikTok, but that's just something that I don't want my information out there to the the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. But it says Meta and Alphabet need TikTok banned because TikTok shows you what you want to see instead of what they want you to see. And then she was saying here's how TikTok algorithms work. She's talking about the algorithms. So it shows you content that you may want to see. If you interact with that content, it shows you more and more of it. It's a reflection of your expressed interest. So apparently, again, you got TikTok, Albert?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. I definitely avoided getting it because of all these security concerns. That's a huge issue. And so, I mean, I get enough watching using Instagram. I get plenty of my short form videos from there. Everyone's trying to copy TikTok anyway.
Yeah, exactly. What and she the bill is pretty interesting. The SB 686 bill. It's called the Restrict Act. Some experts are saying that it has a good chance of passing. I mean, it's pretty draconian. From what I understand, in the entire bill, TikTok is not even mentioned or whatnot. So
how do they wait? So this is the bill we're talking about, the federal bill. The what is it called again?
I believe it's called S 686 SB 686, the Restrict Act.
So this is the U.S. Senate.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're essentially saying, hey, we need to it's a lot more in depth or whatnot, but the crux is like, hey, we need to essentially protect online content or whatever, if you will. Some people, I've heard people say it's basically the Patriot Act 2.0 for the internet or whatnot. And it says how to hold YouTube, Twitter accountable is social media the new Marlboro man. Big tobacco settlement holds lesson for big tech. And she goes on to say, want to learn how TurboTax lobbies Congress to help keep taxes complicated. She's basically talking about it here how some congressmen, they want to ban it, because it's about for them making money. They hold stakes in like Meta and like some of these United States held social media companies. So they want to push TikTok out of that competitive market. So it's really about money, not protecting the United States and things of that nature, as far as like from dangers of TikTok, quote unquote.
What I heard, one concern I've heard is that the bill is going to go beyond just banning TikTok.
Correct.
Is that it's going to, as you mentioned, the Patriot Act 2.0, that did you find out what other things it might do aside from just banning TikTok?
Well, again, I don't want to say anything I don't know for sure, but I know the penalties are pretty steep, like 20 years in prison. And obviously, I read the bill. I've actually looked at the bill and read it. Obviously, it's in a lot of technical jargon. But one of the things that kind of stood out to me was something to the nature of, what was it saying? It slips my mind right now. Oh, if you interfere in elections, things of that nature, like misinformation, disinformation in elections, you possibly could be held accountable. I'm making it overly simplified, but my question always is like, who's going to decide if, I think it's the executive branch that can decide. One of these individuals in the executive branch to say, hey, that's misinformation, disinformation about the elections, and you can be, held accountable for that. Now, obviously, it's more technical than that, but the bill is pretty interesting. It's unfortunate, and again, they say it may pass. Who knows? We'll see. With this administration, anything's possible. But I would argue is totalitarian, authoritarianistic as far as like the stuff that's in there. It has nothing to do with TikTok. It's about basic controlling information. And this woman says real people can grow a community by simply speaking. TikTok creates space for real people to share what they care about. And she goes on to say, who gets control of the information? And she says, information makes us ask questions. Information shows us where our money is going. Information can bring our attention to where it's not wanted. So it's about control of information, not to, oh, we're protecting our kids or whatever. But that's what they're going to throw out, the politicians and stuff. We want to protect our kids or whatever, you know, that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if it would be legal for them to just come out and say, you know what, we're just going to ban TikTok, and then not all this other stuff that is an attempt to ensnare TikTok, but inadvertently ensnare perhaps other social media outlets.
And she says the Restrict Act gives federal government unilateral control to shut down any group of 1 million or more Americans doing anything together online.
Oh.
I mean, this is, think about that. You know, that's why I say unilateral. I believe it's the executive branch that's doing that. So that is outrageous in my view. And we signed, many Americans were okay with the Patriot Act after 9/11, you know, because it was like, hey man, it's a patriotic thing to do. But there was people that was against that, you know, i.e. Presidential candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. was like, hey man, this is gonna, you know, make the intelligence agencies, you know, go haywire as far as like spying on Americans. So with this Restrict Act, it's being labeled as we're banning TikTok to protect kids and things of this nature, but it's more insidious, it's more you know, nefarious than what they're trying to tell you.
And they'll be able to restrict people coordinating potentially even political movements online.
Of course,
they need to. You need to get people online and coordinate, and this may fall under this bill.
Of course, and TikTok is very popular. I talk about to my students about this, like, who has TikTok? Everybody raise their hand. And of course, you got, you know, Instagram, Meta, same thing, but they collect our data too. Yeah. You know, but TikTok, apparently your data is going over to China and stuff. So people are getting your data regardless. But it's just so the internet makes a level playing field, but with things like this, the Restrict Act is trying to essentially pull the rug from under people as far as like getting ahead and getting information, trying to, you know, get their rights here in the United States against the government, perhaps a totalitarian mechanism, the Restrict Act.
All right. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that one, and more stuff coming down the line. We'll see, you know, if this bill actually passes, and then we'll dive more into how that could affect us. So.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, man, it's been a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. I appreciate it, Albert.
All right. See you next time.
Yes, sir.